Today, we're going to be talking about the B word. No, it's not what you think, but we are going to be talking about budgeting. I know half of you guys have your finger on the exit button because you hate to talk about budgeting, but budgeting is so important, one, in your wealth building journey, and then also making sure that as we talk about budgeting, that we're creating a Christ-centered budget. One thing that I say all the time is if you show me your budget, I'll see your relationship with God. If you show me your bank statement, I'll be able to see what you prioritize. By looking at your budget, by creating a budget, it gives a direct correlation to what's important in your life. From you not having a budget to being able to create a budget of your dreams that helps you move forward in your financial journey, we're going to be able to give you core principles today to make sure that budgeting is just not a one-time thing, but you're able to make it a lifestyle. Let's get into it. So today we're talking about how to create a Christ-centered budget. It's not just about putting your income and your expenses together. It's about making sure that your finances are honoring God and that we're sticking to the plan of what God has to say about our money. The first thing that you have to realize and understand that a budget is necessary for you to win financially. I know we sometimes think that we can manage our finances without a budget. I hear a lot of people say, hey, it's in my head. I have a pretty good understanding and a feel of where my finances are. A budget is something that is mandatory for growth. When you think about budgeting, I don't want you to think about budgeting in the normal way that most people think about it. Most people think about budgeting as something that only poor people do. Some people think about budgeting as a prison. That's some of the things that I've heard. I've heard stories of people saying that budgeting just does not work for me. I'm going to challenge your thoughts and your theory about budgeting. So the first thing that I want you to focus on is your budget must prioritize giving. What does that mean? That means that the first focus of your budget should be your tithing. When we talk about tithing, that's taking the first 10% of what you make and bringing it to, the Bible calls it, the storehouse or the local church. No budget is complete unless you're prioritizing giving. One of the things that me and my wife actually do is we budget our tithe. We know that it's 10%, but we also want to see it in our budget to make sure that we are prioritizing it and that we're not overlooking it. So try that tip. Try budgeting in your tithe so that you have an understanding of where the first 10% is going to go. Now, let's talk about the other 90, because budgeting and financial management is not just about the 10%, it's about stewarding the other 90. So one, you want to prioritize tithing, and then you also want to prioritize giving above and beyond your tithe. That's one of the things, of course, I would really recommend if you're in this position where you're paying off debt or you're looking to increase your savings. Maybe this is not the time to go above and beyond your tithe. Maybe 10% is where you need to be from a financial stewardship perspective. But once you've walked through that process, you also may be in a position where we could challenge you to give above your tithe and give an offering, maybe to church or to a different location or to a organization or something that you believe in. Giving above and beyond your tithe, I believe, mirrors the heart of God. Number two, the next focus you should have in your budget is dominating debt. If you don't prioritize paying off debt in your budget, I dare say your debt payoff journey will be very difficult. The first thing you need to focus on is, okay, do I have budgeted the minimum payments that I need to make on all of my debt? That's your student loans, your credit cards, your car note. Do I have the basics covered? And then when you have a properly constructed budget, now you're able to see your income, you're able to see your expenses, and this is the most important part. Now you're able to see your margin. Your margin essentially is what you make versus what you spent. How much do you have left over? Unfortunately, some of us, our margin is red and has a little negative next to it. We're spending more than what we actually bring in. The goal first should be to get your margin to zero. Then the next step should be to get into the black or the green. But we want to make sure that you have margin. And what you do with that margin, if you're wise, if you're using wisdom and you want to grow your financial process, you take that extra margin, you put it towards debt. But here's the thing. Without a budget, you won't know if you're overspending. You won't know if you're underspending. You won't know if you have any margin left to be able to accelerate your wealth building journey. Here's the purpose of a budget. The purpose of a budget is to tell your money what to do. Many of us are being led by our money and we're not leading our money. A budget gives you vision and direction for the future in the area of finances. And then lastly, having a good budget allows you to live below your means. Living below your means. My father-in-law has a saying. He says, cut your coat according to your cloth. What he's really saying is make sure that you are living at the proper space and level in life. Now, I'm going to be honest. This is something that I deal with. One of the things that our generation deals with is the comparison trap. We get on Instagram, we get on TikTok, and we watch other people's highlight reels, specifically in the area of finances. We see this person buying a house. We see this person having a kid. We see this person driving our dream car, and we get discouraged because we feel like we're falling behind. Remember this phrase, run your race. If you seen an Olympic runner or a racer and they're in the blocks and they're racing other people, they're not going to win that race if they're focused on looking to their left and looking to their right and worried about what other people are doing. So my recommendation, and this is for not just people who are quote unquote struggling in finances. This is for the person who has more money than they ever know what to do with. You too must live below your means. That means that you have boundaries, that you have structure, and then here's the key, you have financial principles that you live by. One thing I recommend, before you're faced with a financial decision, understand and know what you believe about money. What is your standards for financial management? What will you do and what will you not do when it comes to stewarding your finances? And a major part of that is to live below your means. That means that you don't spend every single dollar that you bring in. That means that you leave margin. The Bible says that it rains on the just and the unjust alike. So what does that mean? That means that if you're living paycheck to paycheck, which by the way, statistics show here in America and around the world that the majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck, which means that if they were fired or they lost their job or income stopped, they would be in a poor financial situation. We use wisdom, we use discretion, and we make sure that we understand God's intent, not just for budgeting, but for financial management. So let's recap the 3 things that you should be focused on when you're putting your budget together. 1, prioritize giving, both tithe and offering. Number 2, you need to dominate your debt. Don't play around with your debt. Don't become so comfortable with it that you don't want to pay it off. Remember, there's opportunity cost in not paying off your debt. So make sure that your budget is structured to prioritize paying that off. And then lastly, make sure you create a budget that allows you to live below your means. You don't have to spend every single dollar that you have. Make sure that you're saving up for a rainy day and that you're proceeding with caution and wisdom when it comes to managing your finances. My hope is that this video will no longer make you fearful, that it would engage you and want you to move forward in the process of building a budget. Here's one of the things that's important to note. Financial management can be scary, it can be tricky, and it can be complicated. Find a budgeting process that works well for you. If you're highly analytical, maybe you'll look at budgeting in a different way. Maybe if you're someone who's afraid of numbers or you don't ever want to get into the numbers, find a simplistic way for you to be able to budget. Know yourself and know how you connect with money. If this was helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure that you share and subscribe to this channel. We are so excited for all the content that we're going to bring to you. And remember that you have to prioritize budgeting if you're looking to move forward with your finances. Budgeting is a lifetime achievement award. Remember, you don't have to be rich to win with money. You just need to know how to prosper.